Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where this Christmas there was a movie under the tree for everyone. Yes, we're talking films both big and small from almost every genre, doing buffo box office, particularly for themselves. It was both a chance for individual movies to shine, but also for the movie business as a whole to feel that maybe they do have a future. Again, as we've been discussing, it's a real roller coaster of emotion. But speaking of emotions, fandom loves a good fight, and Sonic vs. Mufasa got even more interesting in round 2. So, a Hollywood fable come to life. At first, the hedgehog easily outpaced the lion, so much so that the anti-Disney crowd laughed with glee, and the mouse got community noted. That was incredible. But I do have to say, it's puzzling that despite all the hype for Sonic 3, it opened lower than Sonic 2. Considerably lower, like noticeably lower. Not like a technicality lower. Lower! And on both Christmas Day and the day after, December 26th, Mufasa was the box office king. No asterisks needed. For the 3-day weekend, Sonic had a fantastic hold, but Mufasa went up! And domestically is now in striking distance of Sonic's total. Now, the trades are trying to say that with the holidays, there's enough free time and family schedules for all family movies to thrive. But I say that's not true, because I think it's pretty clear that Sonic, Mufasa, and even Moana are indeed cannibalizing each other a little bit. What do you think? I think they're definitely eating into each other's business. So much so that I'm no longer sure that Moana 2 is going to reach $1 billion. I mean, it's going to get very, very close. But remember when Multiverse of Madness almost reached $1 billion? It almost reached $1 billion, but it didn't reach $1 billion. And I think that if Sonic and particularly Mufasa didn't exist, Moana probably would reach $1 billion. So I know where to point the finger. Disney not having a Star Wars or an Avatar movie for this holiday season really threw off the box office, especially for Disney, as they were forced to release 2 family flicks aimed at younger viewers back to back. I mean, younger viewers see Star Wars, and I think families go to see Star Wars and Avatar as well, but I'm talking, families with tykes, maybe they would have seen those movies twice or 3 times. Maybe they would go and see both. I mean, are you a family like that? What has your experience been? I mean, Sonic 3 in particular has incredible audience scores, very strong audience scores. So why is it softer than Sonic 2? I saw the film yesterday, and I'll do a mini review tomorrow during the live stream. But I will say that this one is much more fan-focused than the other 2, which is obviously delighting hardcore fans, but I think makes the film a scooch less enjoyable for casuals like myself. It's interesting. The Superman trailer played in front of it, and I thought that was, it was almost like a warning. Like if you get too fan-friendly, too fan-focused, it might be off-putting to casuals and, people who aren't super fans. Also, I have to say, Sonic 3 was super serious. I was like, this is a very serious film, which is, let's say, a surprising choice for family content, especially when it comes out during the holidays. You're like, this film's a little bit of a downer. Jim Carrey was hilarious, though. We have this discussion a lot about, balancing fandom and casuals. And we have it a lot because it's not only true, but it's extremely important. You've got to please the hardcore fans because they'll tear your movie to shreds. They're the foundation. But you really need casuals and people who are not into the IP for the film to do very well, particularly if it's a big, expensive movie. Sonic benefits from the fact that it's a smaller film. But I also think that hurts it a little bit because it doesn't feel like a big blockbuster event. But speaking of balancing fandom and casuals, it's a difficult thing to do, which is why it's so notable and fantastic when a film is able to achieve that. What are some films that you would say had struck a good balance between, making the hardcore fans happy, but also casuals? Marvel, for a while, really had that going. Kevin Feige built his career on that, making, comic book fandom accessible to casuals or normies. But I think that he's lost a little bit of that mojo. But Sonic 3, by the way, speaking of feeling on the small side, I think that's why it's not like Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers, I would say, is also a movie that leaned more into the fandom than it did pleasing the overall, moviegoer population. But, because I didn't think it was accessible as a non-fan. However, there are so many Super Mario fans, and the movie also was presented as such a big deal. It was an event. Even if you didn't want to go or you weren't into it, you were like, everybody's going. It's a party. It did extremely well. Sonic, it doesn't have that same feel. But this is a great segue into Focus Features' Nosferatu, which they turned into a party. The audience scores here are not great, although, as we've discussed, for a horror film, B- is pretty good. Robert Eggers is definitely an acquired taste. His last film, The Northman, got just a B, better than a B-, while his films before that were so small in release that they didn't even get cinema scores. Yet because Focus presented Nosferatu as an event film, theater displays, popcorn buckets, cheeky Christmas Day release, that was brilliant. The hype was real, with 59% of tickets sold day of. That's walk-up business. People are like, everybody's talking about it. Let's see this thing. You want to see Nosferatu for Christmas? Tee-hee. It worked. And it did very well on premium screens because it's such, a piece of visual artistry. Mwah! Even, by the way, speaking of premium screens, it took some of the Dolby showings away from Sonic, which sucks for Sonic, but it's very nice for Nosferatu. Man, build more premium screens. They're Solomoning all these screens all the time. They're like, in the morning you can see Sonic, and then there's one Mufasa showing, and then Nosferatu in the evening. And it's crazy, but maybe you don't want to watch Sonic or Mufasa during the day, Maybe you want to go to an evening showtime, but you can't because Nosferatu's playing. Make more premium screens. Focus, though, was able to blow up Nosferatu to one of their biggest openings of all time. It was on track to be the biggest, but it's not everybody loves it. So it's losing a little bit of steam as the weekend progressed. It's indeed fascinating, though, to see art house distributors like Focus and A24 try to play the blockbuster game and do pretty well at it. Like they have some mojo there. As in the age of streaming and social media, younger film fans are drawn to intellectual and niche filmmaking. Yes, explosions are worthy of the big screen, but it would seem so is art, which is pretty nice when you think about it. Not going to complain about that. That's fantastic. Film Twitter is saying Eggers is the new Ari Aster. But if I were Robert Eggers' agent, I would say he's on track to be the next Nolan and Villeneuve. I'm like, he's joining that trio, thank you very much. Hey guys, do you want to talk to my guy over here? Go play with your new friends. So, that's what I would do. Ultimately, of course, it's up to Eggers and the project he chooses next. But the reason he's getting so much heat right now is not because he made another great movie, but because of IP. That's right! IP, the true horror for film Twitter, as they realize that their darling baby Eggers is succeeding because he embraced IP. Dracula! He made a Dracula movie. And, he might technically count Orlok. It's Dracula. That's what's getting everybody to go in. They're like, oh, I like Dracula. It's IP. IP blows up careers. Batman put Nolan on the map. Some of you might argue this, but you're wrong. Made them household names and allowed them to go on to do whatever they want. Villeneuve took a run at it with Blade Runner first, and it didn't work out for him, but then he rallied, he came back with Dune, and even the first one was a little soft, but then with Dune 2, people were like, oh my God, he's the next Nolan. But without copying Nolan. And Eggers has his own unique style as well, but I definitely think he could hang out with them. I definitely think it's a fit. Really, I would be like, Nolan, you're talking to Villeneuve so much, you want to talk to my guy? He's real nice. I keep saying that Eggers should adapt The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I was saying he should do a prestige streaming series, but I think that Nosferatu is doing well enough in theaters that I want to keep Eggers in that space, so let's do a movie. I'd be like, make me a 3-hour League of just the idea of it makes me salivate. I love League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Not that stupid adaptation they already made, but the original comic. Oh, it's so amazing. And Alan Moore has revisited the material many times, so there's enough for a franchise. I'm just saying. Eggers doesn't have to do that, even though that's what I'd like him to do, but he should pick a project in that vein. He doesn't have to, right? He's at a fork in the road. I mean, you're actually seeing someone standing at a fork in the road, which is pretty cool. He has to decide what career he ultimately wants. It's not necessarily going to work out, but he has a chance to make a run at it. I would advise him that he will always have the art house crowd. In fact, he already has them. They already love him. Trying to level up to be able to join Nolan and Villeneuve is a rare and exciting opportunity, which he should take. What would you advise Robert Eggers to do? And do you have any properties that you think could level him up in a similar way? You know, it needs to be one that is an IP that would make people be like, well, I'll watch that. You know, like the casuals. They're like, ooh, Dracula and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen has all those different kind of horror characters together in their own little Justice League. So good. But, you know, it needs something that has that kind of mainstream appeal, but still allows Robert Eggers to keep his artistic credibility, right? He can't look like he's selling out. So that's the kind of project that you'd be looking for him. Eggers is getting the most out of Nosferatu's success. You know, just like Villeneuve and Nolan, he's very much a part of the conversation, and audiences are aware of him, which is also something very key to behind-the-camera talent becoming successful. You know, you want to be a name, even though you're not seen in the actual film that you make. Directors, even harder for writers to do. But that's if you're a director or a writer or a producer, you know, you still want that name recognition. So that's fantastic that Eggers is developing that. But this is also great news for Lily Rose Depp and Nicholas Hoult. Hoult did not curse the film, it seems, although it ain't over yet. We'll see. But that's very promising for Superman, which is coming up. And this is a much-needed win for Depp after her disastrous experience with The Weeknd. Perhaps she has a career after all. No one's really talking about Bill Skarsgård, though, as I predicted. I told you, sometimes when you review something before anyone else has seen it, it can be a little tough. Everyone's like, what do you mean? And then you see it, and you're like, oh, a couple of you said that, and I appreciated it. But with these not-so-great audience scores, it will be interesting to see what Nosferatu's second weekend looks like. Was it merely a Christmas curiosity? Or will it play all the way through January? That's very interesting to me. Focus, yes, that's a division of Universal. They love to put stuff on digital. So watch out, Eggers. They're like, you know, Universal's team is like, I'm going to put it on digital. No, give it a little space. We'll see what the second weekend looks like. But, you know, Eggers, sign your deals this week, baby. You know, before I'm nervous about the second weekend. If I were Eggers, I would try to sign a deal, or at least get someone so in love with the idea that even though I haven't signed on the dotted line, because, you know, he's not a very expensive filmmaker, maybe I could make it work. All right, its demos are okay. Nosferatu was split pretty evenly male to female and had good age range, but its diversity demos, let's just say, they could have been stronger. But wow, look at a complete unknown. 78% Caucasian, my goodness, and skewed older. Clearly, the people most interested in Bob Dylan's story are people who are Bob Dylan fans. And apparently Bob Dylan ain't making any new ones recently. Plus, this is an old school type of movie, so I can see why it would appeal to that crowd. But what about Timmy C bringing in the Utes? I made that reference, by the way, on my Superman breakdown as well. That's my cousin Vinny joke. But Timothée Chalamet is certainly working very hard to promote the film, and in the process is delighting the internet with new memes and GIFs. I don't know how much he's helping a complete unknown, but I think he's helping his own brand quite a bit. Plus, bottom line, this is an Oscar play for Chalamet. One that's almost certain, I think, to result in his second nomination and maybe even a win. Because think about it, the Academy is working to diversify its membership, but it still has a lot of voters that fall into these demographics. He's already Paul Atreides in Wonka, as he recently said. He's got Dune money, so he's doing okay. He has that element of his career in good shape. You know, he has a very well-balanced career. I said in my Complete Unknown review that we've been thinking he was the new Johnny Depp, and I think he's actually a new DiCaprio. He's following DiCaprio, and some of you point out that DiCaprio has advised Chalamet not to do comic book movies. Whereas I think Robert Pattinson, who we thought was DiCaprio, is actually going the Johnny Depp route, which is interesting. By the way, Lily Rose Depp, Johnny Depp's daughter. All right, speaking of the Oscar race, Babygirl is not being well received by film Twitter nor audiences overall. So while Nicole Kidman won Best Actress at the Venice Film Festival, which many thought made her a shoo-in to win the Oscar, yet again, you can actually see her Oscar momentum eroding before your eyes online. Whew. We'll see what happens at the Golden Globes a week from today, as the awards race will start to come more sharply into focus. Oh, and another awards frontrunner, The Brutalist, is doing respectable but not amazing box office as it's expanded from 4 to 7 theaters this weekend. I mean, the real issue is that it's not generating any conversation. Ain't nobody talking about it, which is a real problem. It is being drowned out by the chatter for Nosferatu, A Complete Unknown, and Babygirl. Brutalist is like, I'm in here too, man. But we'll see what happens. Also, when it comes to awards season, what's going to happen with Wicked? Will it have the same fate as Barbie, where it's ultimately regarded as too commercial and that the money ended up being its real reward? Poor Barbie. No respect. But maybe it will end up winning a lot of awards after all, as musicals have historically done in the past. So we'll see. Also, this is a weird awards year post the strike, so Wicked doesn't really have any huge competition, especially as you see movies like Babygirl and The Brutalist start to fall away a bit. So Wicked might actually do it. Wicked has already, one accomplishment it can add to its list of many is that it did ultimately surpass Mamma Mia to become the highest grossing Broadway film adaptation of all time, and is now comfortably in the 600 millions. It still has to hit Japan, by the way, where they love Wicked just as they loved Frozen, and added quite a bit of money to that film's, to Frozen's box office, the first one. However, Wicked, as we've discussed, doesn't hit Japan until March 7th. That's insane. And it was just announced that Universal, who, as we just said, loves a good digital release, has pushed the button for Wicked for Tuesday. Wicked hits digital on Tuesday. And Wicked fans are not happy because they feel the film is still doing very well in theaters, and this will undercut it. They want those sweet, sweet box office headlines and records. But we've also seen many movies hit digital, but still continue to do well in theaters. So I wouldn't count out Wicked in the theatrical space just yet. If Wicked can somehow manage to crawl to 700 million, that would be incredible. If it can cross 700 million, that would be fantastic. I'm worried about the sequel. Oh, please, would another movie come over to pair with it to create another Barbenheimer or Glicked? I want Superman to move. It's not going to, but I'm nervous because there's only one good song left for part 2, although they have written some new songs. But I'm very nervous about the second half. But anyway, speaking of making money though, movies don't just make money in theaters. Of course, that's like the engine, but they make a lot of money in other places, like digital. So I think that might be why Universal is willing to take the risk to put the movie out Tuesday. It not only has tons of extras and lots of deleted scenes, some of which have already turned up online, and some people don't seem to realize that deleted scenes do not get fully rendered. They're not going to do the VFX for a scene that's not in the final film. But anyway, there's also a sing-along version. So, ka-ching? I'm thinking ka-ching. As for the overall top 10, 6 movies, 6 out of 10, managed to clear 10 million for the 3-day weekend alone, and it has been a long time since that happened. Usually only the top 2 to 3 movies are able to clear 10 million in a weekend. And with Christmas festivities wrapped up and people chilling until and through New Year's, the movie business has got to be so happy that people have opted to head to their local multiplex rather than just stay home and stream. Is it movie theater subscriptions? Is it theater upgrades that have already started? Post-election, a feeling that the economy is maybe going to be getting better. Why do you think that after months of people complaining that it's too expensive to go to the movies, people are going to the movies, even though the movie prices have not changed? Also, kudos to Barry Jenkins. He should have not complained about Mufasa, because look at this accomplishment. And Mufasa, it's obviously no Lion King, but it's doing okay. But he's not only the big major driving talent behind Mufasa, but is the writer and producer of Amazon MGM's The Fire Inside, which gives him 2 movies in this weekend's top 10. Can he build himself a mini Hollywood empire, as other directors have done? Chris frickin' Columbus produced Nosferatu. How great is that? The Home Alone Harry Potter guy. The Fire Inside has excellent audience scores as well, and should do well for Amazon down the line on Prime Video. Now let's head over to streaming, where Nielsen is a week behind. But then again, so am I, because I was traveling for the last week or so there was no movie math last week. So I can cover these charts for mid to late November, right before Thanksgiving. Nothing too amazing happening here, except that Netflix's death grip on the streaming charts seems to be loosening a bit, as you can now see many streaming services able to get content into the overall top 10. Still, nobody can blow up a show quite like Netflix. I want to point out what they're doing right now for Interview with the Vampire. That's extraordinary. And I have to say, it's not only Netflix, but also I would say the fans of that show. You got me to watch it and to cover it, and I think you're really blowing it up. I think Lestat, season 3, which focuses on Lestat, could end up doing quite well because of your efforts. But Netflix, season 1 is on that service. You have to buy season 2 or find it elsewhere. But the show they're doing very well on Netflix. It's great. And in fact, I just saw Trixie Mattel and Katya reacting to season 1 over on Netflix's social media account. So really brilliant marketing. And speaking of blowing up, audiences seem to finally be discovering AP Bio now that it's on Netflix. It's apparently a Peacock original because its 2 final seasons were on Peacock. So that's why it's on the originals charts, even though it's an old sitcom. But anyway, could Glenn Howerton finally maybe be poised to get the glow up that we all feel he is so deserving of? Watch Blackberry. Why, his career should be better than it is. So this is very exciting for me. If I was his agent, I'd be like, let me get to the emails. There are a lot of services on the originals chart too, with Taylor Sheridan having got now 3 shows into the top 10. Wow, talk about a Hollywood mini empire. Then in movies, Deadpool and Wolverine fell by about half in its second week on Disney+, but Disney Plus still has 4 movies here in the top 10. Disney Plus, interestingly enough, excels the most in movies, where every other streaming service does better with shows. But Alien Romulus is one of them. I mean, these numbers are super low, but at least it's here. With Netflix's charts, 2 new movies are doing very well for them. Carry On, that's a huge hit in particular, and The 688. Although it seems people are hate watching them, or perhaps more accurately, have them on in the background. Yes, it was revealed that Netflix is aware that their content often plays in the background and have begun advising their screenwriters to write descriptive dialogue so that viewers, or in this case, I guess listeners, can know what's happening without having to actually look at the screen. Sort of like a radio play? Look, I love a good radio play. I used to listen to old radio shows when I was growing up as story tapes. They're fantastic. And how funny that we're going full circle, that we started at radio and now we've come back to radio in some ways. But on a more serious note, what streaming and social media, what they're doing to attention spans, ability to engage in the moment, and let's call it creative cognition, is truly shocking and dispiriting. But what Netflix is doing for sports is incredible. They're like, our ledger's balancing out. After blowing up boxing, Netflix turned to the NFL on Christmas Day and not only fixed their buffering issues, it seems, but spread American football cheer to everyone across the entire globe. Not only did they deliver U.S. viewership on par with more traditional sports outlets, their first time out of the gate, matching the viewership of top games on ESPN and other major networks, they allowed global fans to tune in the world over, with over 200 countries watching the football. Well, American football, right? Because you guys have soccer. Hilarious. Not just for the games, but Netflix also delivered Beyonce and Mariah Carey. My goodness! Talk about a Merry Christmas! As well as these amazing Santa coats for Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Those are very nice coats. If traditional networks lose sports, I don't know what else is going to keep them propped up. That's going to be tough. But, think about it. What kind of numbers could Netflix deliver for something like the Super Bowl, which definitely has global interest? Are you outside the United States? Did you watch either of the 2 NFL games on Netflix on Christmas Day? And if so, why? Are you an NFL fan? Were you curious as to what this American football was? Did you tune in for Beyonce and Mariah? Or maybe for all of it? Maybe for all of it. And do you think you'll keep doing it? Or was it just a fun thing to check out because it was like a new thing? That's also, I think, talking about Christmas curiosities. But kudos to Netflix for delivering Super Bowl level performances like Beyonce and Mariah for non-Super Bowl games. They really use that Rolodex. With shows on Netflix, these are pretty weak numbers, but Virgin River, now on season 6, continues to be a real workhorse for the streaming service. Plus, you'll note 2 stand-up specials in the top 10. The numbers aren't great, but Jamie Foxx did manage to get a lot of traction on social media, as his special was particularly personal. On digital with Apple TV, Glicken Lives with Gladiator 2, just having hit digital, and look at those wicked pre-sales. Ka-ching indeed! $30 a pop! There is no rental option for Wicked right now. I mean, maybe it'll show up on Tuesday, but right now you got to buy that thing. I'm considering it. All right, also, The Order, once considered an awards contender, has basically gone straight to digital. Tough year for Jude Law. Tough year. Is Hugh Grant drinking his milkshake? I think he is. You're not zany enough, Jude Law, on screen and off. Speaking of awards contenders, Heretic, Hugh Grant, The Substance, Anora, and The Wild Robot are all continuing to do steady business on digital and could very well do so all the way through awards season. As for this coming week, it's January. Oh, it's a content desert, man. I mean, we'll have a little bit of stuff, but it's going to be a difficult month. Maybe Severance will deliver, but anyway, it's been too long. All these like Squid Game. I'm excited to see Squid Game's numbers next week. But anyway, all these movies should continue to do well in the top 10 because no movies are hitting theaters this coming weekend. Big or small, there's nothing. There's just a 7 IMAX re-release. That's it. On Digital Tuesday, again, there's Wicked. Also, A Real Pain will drop. While on streaming on Friday, there's the new Wallace and Gromit movie on Netflix, which is very charming. You should have that with a cup of tea and some biscuits. As for shows, Netflix has a new Harlan Coben series dropping on New Year's Day, and the last one was a real rate or viewership juggernaut. So this one could be a big hit as well. And then, of course, a week from today, the Golden Globes. We'll still have movie math, don't worry, but in the evening, it's the Golden Globes. I'll be doing my usual live tweeting, but I have something fun planned as well, so we're going to have a really good time. So mark your calendar. All right, and that's this week's movie math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And as the year comes to a close, what movies do you still hope to be able to see in theaters while you can? Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.